The story of Leif and Jeanett, Part 8. The day after I met Jeanett, I decided to explore a nearby Nordic ski center called Korlevoll Ski Station. It is a 20-minute drive from Oda on the road you take out of town to Oslo. I was feeling very energized from the day before when we met for the first time. I was also feeling a little anxiety because I carved the tile of the two people holding hands in front of Norway's largest stone. I was worried because I didn't know how Jeanett would react to that. That was the stone we stood next to the day before, and the tile I carved was in the likeness of a photograph we took together standing in front of the stone. But in reality, we weren't holding hands. Refer to Part 7. Some people might think that I shouldn't worry about anything. It's funny how words have different meanings to different people. Sometimes I wonder if I have not adapted to America yet because my dad is the first generation in the United States. When I use the word anxiety or the word worry, I feel many times these words don't carry the same feeling with some people and do not translate to how I feel when I talk about how I feel using those words. Personally, I don't see how I couldn't feel anxiety after doing anything that would be an attempt to bring Jeanett and I closer together, because any attempt I would make to show affection towards her could be seen as unwanted. However, I learned to be stoic after making these advances because I make them out of acts of love, not out of acts of aggression. If I knew they were unwanted, I wouldn't make them. It was on this first day after I had met her, and the morning after I carved the tile in the likeness of the photograph we took standing next to the rock together, that I brushed aside any anxiety I had that in carving that tile had damaged our friendship. I hadn't learned yet to think back to the moment when Jeanett turned to me as she was walking away and told me about her genetics. I hadn't learned to trust that moment yet. I hadn't learned to believe that she liked me also. The anxiety that I woke up with slowly went away as I began to get moving and started my day. Somehow I was able to tell myself that carving that tile was an act of goodness and my attempt to communicate my intentions. Over the weeks and months ahead, Jeanett and other people who are close to me would recognize the moments that created anxiety, and they were there for me during those moments and helped me get through them. It takes great faith and a belief in your own moral compass to attempt the relationship given the nature of our situation. You cannot help to love the person that you love, and you reach a point when you cannot give up on yourself, because if you give up on that friendship you're creating, ultimately you're giving up on yourself. In my youth, I gave up on many friendships, and most of them were for the better, because they weren't friendships built on love, like the friendship I created with Jeanett. I will never give up on that friendship, no matter where it takes me. After I got moving on that first day after we met, the anxiety subsided and I began feeling that closeness once again to her. I would learn that I could carry out my daily activities while handling my feelings towards Jeanett, and at some point during the day, I would leave time for her in some way, shape, or form, be it a post on my social media or a new tile I was carving. This was my way of knowing that she always knew I was thinking about her, so that she would never worry or have to question that my feelings towards her were always present and growing. I could not send her messages unless they were absolutely necessary, because we didn't learn to communicate that way in the beginning. Try to imagine a real-life situation when you always had the opportunity to be so close to that person who you have feelings for, and you could reach out to them at any moment, knowing they would reciprocate. It doesn't work that way, even though we all have the opportunity to send people a message using instant messenger at any moment. My way to remedy the challenge to refrain from sending someone you're just getting to know a message on instant messenger was to post something every day that I know she would recognize as me thinking of her. Sometimes it was more obvious than other times. At one point during my snowshoeing excursion at Korlevoll Ski Station, I was up on the mountain and the sun was setting. It was cold and the wind was blowing the snow around, and the moment struck me. I knew with certainty that she would be watching what I was doing. I'm not one to show off, But this feeling of excitement at times made me feel like I could show a sense of playfulness I never felt comfortable showing before because I wanted her to see me. I found a spot where I could put the camera down and I set the timer to take pictures of me in a creative way, dancing around in my snowshoes with a beautiful sun setting and the cold Norwegian snow whipping around, making the moment more dramatic. I was doing that for Jeanett. But what's interesting is that even though I'm not with her, I have never lost that playfulness that I gained after meeting her. I think it was on this day when I sent her a message asking her when she wanted to meet for our hike, which would have been our second meeting. Which reminds me, when we were saying goodbye the day before, I forgot to mention that I asked her if she wanted to go hiking sometime before I left. She thought that sounded like a good idea, but we did not make plans, so I figured I would ask her sometime before I left. It was on this day that I sent her the message asking when she wanted to go for the hike, but I'm not 100% sure of that. In any event, we planned on a day the following week, and at that time, I was not keeping close tabs on her travel plans. She was going on a fishing trip, but I didn't know when. This interaction was enough for me to feel like I had given her attention for a while. So on this day, nothing specific happened, and I did not do anything extra special for her on social media. This is the day when I went snowshoeing at the Corlevo ski station. I remember the moment when I learned that she was going on a special trip with a professional fisherman who was Norwegian. I was in East Lansing, Michigan at the annual Michigan Wildflower Conference. It was raining and I was in my truck, and she posted about her trip to northern Norway to accompany this professional fisherman on a promotional trip for a fishing guide service. I will admit my heart was a little broken when I heard about this because this trip she was taking coincided with the time I would be in Norway. My faith was tested when I heard about this, but I would never be defeated. I had learned to tell myself that she is going to be fishing with men, and jealousy must never get in the way of our friendship, wherever it was leading. It was 2 days after we met that she would leave for this trip. 2 days after we met, she posted her first new picture on her social media pages, and this was meaningful because she did not post very often. So to see what she posted had consequences to my feelings, and to separate those feelings with her trip with the professional fisherman was something I had to do. Again, I had not learned yet to trust the feelings she gave me as she turned to me while walking back to her car after we met. Because remember what she told me. She told me that she had good genetics.